Next time you're watching your favorite HBO series, whether it's the power struggles of Succession, the fantasy battles of Game of Thrones, or the criminal underworld of The Sopranos, you might be surprised to learn that while you've been binge-watching Emmy-winning dramas, countless New Yorkers have been suffering through a different kind of saga, the Dolan family era of the New York Knicks. Indeed, as you'll see in a moment, you've witnessed few family fortunes experience such dramatic reputational whiplash, from a media innovator celebrated for enriching your cultural landscape to a sports tyrant infamous for ejecting team legends from your beloved Madison Square Garden and banning fans whose criticism hit too close to home. Therefore, in today's episode of Old Money Luxury, we invite you to explore how the Dolan dynasty went from owning the most beloved TV franchise to becoming the most hated sports owners in New York City. James Dolan, the scowling patriarch who inherited his father's empire, but apparently none of his business instincts, sits atop a $13.5 billion empire with all the business finesse of a wrecking ball. You see, his father Charles pioneered HBO from scratch in the 1970s, transforming that singular stroke of brilliance into a sprawling empire of cable television, entertainment venues, and professional sports franchises before passing the controls to his son, who steered it with all the precision of a carnival bumper car. Now, the family coffers swelled magnificently in 2016 when they offloaded Cablevision to Altice USA for a staggering $17.7 billion. Brilliant timing, that, selling at the absolute peak. If only such strategic genius extended to running basketball teams. Madison Square Garden remains the crown jewel in the Dolan collection, a multi-billion-dollar arena hosting everything from world-class concerts to the collective trauma therapy sessions, otherwise known as Knicks games. The portfolio gleams with New York landmarks, including Radio City Music Hall and the Beacon Theatre, architectural masterpieces that stand in stark contrast to the architectural nightmare that is the Knicks playing style. The family controls both the Knicks and Rangers franchises, one a catastrophic lesson in how to destroy a sports legacy, the other occasionally remembering how to win something. Their entertainment kingdom extends to AMC networks, home to groundbreaking shows like Breaking Bad and The Walking Dead, programming infinitely more compelling than anything witnessed on the Madison Square Garden court this millennium. Dolan's latest financial folly, the MSG Sphere in Las Vegas, cost an eye-watering $4 billion and features the world's largest LED screen, perfectly proportioned to display the owner's ego in ultra-high definition. This technological marvel hemorrhages $35 million monthly, a financial wound that would devastate anyone with less inherited wealth or more business sense. And while other billionaires flaunt super yachts or private islands, James maintains a recording studio for his blues band, JD and the Straight Shot. Now, the MSG corporate structure grants Dolan extraordinary executive power, allowing him to rule his empire like a medieval lord, where criticism constitutes treason and loyalty to failed executives defines his leadership philosophy. His extraordinary pettiness reached legendary status when he feuded with filmmaker Spike Lee after 30 years of loyal Knicks fandom over a minor entrance disagreement. Truly, the mark of visionary leadership. Furthermore, the Dolan empire benefits from remarkable tax advantages, including a property tax exemption for Madison Square Garden via a 1982 deal saving hundreds of millions, a privilege defended with more vigor than the Knicks defend their basket. Additionally, peer behind the Dolan curtain of wealth and calamitous management, and you'll discover the true masterstroke of this dynasty isn't the son's talent for alienating fans. It's the stunning irony of how a Cleveland boy with nothing but ambition built an entertainment colossus that his heir would inherit, expand, and somehow still transform into New York's most expensive punchline. The Dolan saga begins not in executive suites, but in the green hills of Ireland, where their ancestors developed the stubborn determination that would later characterize both their business triumphs and spectacular sports failures. This Irish Catholic heritage shaped the family's values and work ethic long before cable television existed, establishing cultural roots that Charles Dolan would carry into his American entrepreneurial ventures. Charles Francis Dolan entered the world on October 16, 1926, in Cleveland, Ohio, a city whose industrial pragmatism would influence his practical approach to media innovation. His father, David Dolan, worked as an inventor who sold patents to major corporations, including Ford Motor Company, establishing a family tradition of turning ideas into income that Charles would later perfect. Young Charles grew up during the Great Depression, witnessing economic hardship that instilled both financial caution and opportunity-seeking that would guide his later business decisions. The future media mogul's education included service in the United States Army Air Forces during World War II, military experience that provided discipline and organizational skills crucial to building his future empire. After his service, Charles attended John Carroll University but dropped out before completing his degree, joining the elite club of college dropouts who later transformed industries through sheer vision and tenacity. His early career path showed little hint of the telecommunications revolution he would eventually lead, beginning with modest production of sports and industrial films alongside his wife, Helen Ann Dolan, in their Cleveland home. This husband-wife partnership in media would become the first building block of a family business dynasty, with Helen providing support and stability as Charles pursued increasingly ambitious ventures. By the age of 26, Charles had moved to New York City and founded Teleguide Inc., a service providing information to hotels, an early glimpse of his talent for meeting information needs through technology. The Dolans embodied the post-war American dream, building from middle-class beginnings toward entrepreneurial success through innovation rather than inherited privilege, a stark contrast to how the next generation would receive their fortune. Charles and Helen raised their children with both Catholic values and entrepreneurial spirit, creating a family culture where business discussions regularly spilled over into dinnertime conversation. Young James Dolan absorbed these early lessons alongside his siblings, growing up in an environment where media innovation and business strategy were as common as sports metaphors in most American households. While other families relaxed on weekends, Charles often brought his children to work, exposing them to business operations and instilling the importance of direct involvement in company management, a lesson James would later apply with catastrophic thoroughness to the Knicks. As the 1960s dawned, Charles Dolan stood on the precipice of media revolution, armed with nothing but ambition, technical insight, and a willingness to literally dig trenches beneath Manhattan to bring clearer television to apartments whose residents had no idea they were about to witness entertainment history. Little did those early cable subscribers realize they were funding not just better reception, but the birth of an entertainment colossus that would transform American culture and eventually spawn a son whose business acumen would prove as fuzzy as the pre-cable television signals his father had worked so tirelessly to improve. Charles Dolan's true genius emerged in 1964 when he founded Sterling Manhattan Cable, the first urban cable television company in the United States, literally digging trenches beneath Manhattan to wire buildings for a service most Americans hadn't yet imagined needing. This groundbreaking venture connected New York City apartments to better television reception at a time when most viewers still adjusted rabbit ears and accepted fuzzy pictures as an inevitable part of the viewing experience. Sterling Manhattan Cable negotiated agreements with New York sports teams, including the Knicks and Rangers, to broadcast games directly into homes, creating the first financial connection between Dolan and the franchises his family would later own. While competitors focused on suburban areas with easier installation logistics, Charles deliberately targeted dense urban markets, a counterintuitive strategy that demonstrated both his vision and willingness to tackle complex infrastructure challenges. The inspiration for HBO struck during a family vacation to France in 1971 when Dolan conceptualized the Green Channel, envisioning a service combining Hollywood films with live sports events without commercial interruption. Home Box Office officially launched in 1972 as the first premium cable television service offering uncut movies and exclusive programming for subscribers, creating an entirely new business model that would transform entertainment forever. The early HBO premiered with a hockey game and a movie, Sometimes a Great Notion starring Paul Newman, transmitted to 365 subscribers in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, a modest beginning for what would become a cultural juggernaut. Despite creating this revolutionary service, Dolan sold HBO to Time Inc. shortly after founding it, focusing instead on his Long Island-based business, Cablevision Systems Corporation, a decision that redirected his energy toward building the cable empire that would eventually acquire Madison Square Garden. Under Charles Dolan's leadership, Cablevision expanded aggressively throughout the 1970s and 80s, growing from a local provider into one of America's largest cable television companies, demonstrating his talent for scaling businesses in competitive markets. His expansion strategy included both increasing subscriber numbers and diversifying content, launching regional sports networks like Sports Channel and specialized programming through Bravo, establishing Cablevision as both a distribution platform and content creator. By the 1980s, Cablevision had secured rights to broadcast Knicks and Rangers games, deepening the family's connection to these franchises and foreshadowing their eventual acquisition of the teams themselves. Beyond business, Charles demonstrated genuine compassion by founding the Lustgarten Foundation for Pancreatic Cancer Research in 1998, after losing Cablevision executive Mark Lustgarten to the disease, showing a philanthropic commitment that balanced his commercial ambitions. The Dolan Family Foundation and Dolan Children's Foundation further exemplified Charles's commitment to giving back, supporting causes including healthcare, education, youth services, arts, and culture, creating a positive legacy beyond telecommunications. Charles Dolan's business achievements culminated in the 2016 sale of Cablevision to Altice USA for $17.7 billion, one of the largest transactions in telecommunications history, a final validation of his vision and business acumen. Yet even as Charles Dolan's name became synonymous with media innovation and business success, a shadow was growing over his empire, one cast not by market forces or technological disruption, but by the man who would inherit it all, transforming Madison Square Garden from the world's most famous arena into the world's most infamous monument to spite, pettiness, and stubborn mismanagement. On December 16, 2006, as the bright lights of Madison Square Garden illuminated a scene of chaos on the polished hardwood below, James Dolan stood watching his Knicks franchise implode before a national television audience, the arena erupting into what sports journalists called the biggest on-court fight since the Malice at the Palace. This brawl between the Knicks and Denver Nuggets, a melee triggered partly by tensions stemming from Dolan's hiring of Isaiah Thomas, represented more than an isolated incident. It was the public manifestation of organizational rot that had spread since Dolan assumed control. Just months earlier, a jury had pulled back the curtain on Madison Square Garden's workplace atmosphere, finding that Thomas had engaged in inappropriate professional conduct of a highly personal nature toward former marketing executive Anucha Brown Sanders, and that the organization had terminated her employment for reporting these unwelcome attentions, compelling Dolan to authorize an $11.6 million settlement, while nevertheless remaining steadfastly loyal to Thomas. The seeds of fan alienation, planted during these early controversies, blossomed into full-blown hostility in February 2017, when Dolan confronted a longtime season ticket holder who had shouted, "Sell the team," calling the fan an asshole and threatening a permanent ban, a response that revealed how completely Dolan had inverted the traditional owner-customer relationship. His instinct to retaliate against criticism rather than address its underlying causes manifested in increasingly aggressive measures, with Madison Square Garden security regularly removing fans who expressed negative opinions, creating a climate of surveillance within an arena once celebrated for its passionate crowd. The nadir of Dolan's vindictiveness came on February 8, 2017, when he ordered the forcible ejection and subsequent banning of beloved Knicks legend Charles Oakley after a verbal confrontation, a decision so universally condemned that it united Knicks fans, former players, and even rival NBA owners in disgust. His corporate vindictiveness extended beyond the arena when he famously sabotaged the New York Jets' bid to build a West Side stadium, bidding $600 million with no intention to build, but merely to prevent a competing sports franchise from establishing itself in what he viewed as his territory. Legal storms periodically engulf the Dolan empire, with a January 2024 lawsuit alleging James engaged in inappropriate personal conduct with a wellness professional during his band's tour, claims he emphatically rejects as baseless fabrications. The same lawsuit allegedly implicated disgraced film producer Harvey Weinstein, suggesting a troubling connection between the two powerful figures, adding Hollywood scandal to the portfolio of controversies surrounding the Dolan name. Madison Square Garden employs facial recognition technology to identify and exclude critics, a system ostensibly designed for security but repurposed as a tool for corporate vendettas against anyone from attorneys to journalists who dare question the Dolan reign. The Dolan leadership style revealed itself most clearly in his response to the COVID-19 pandemic, when Madison Square Garden was among the last major venues to pay hourly workers during shutdowns. A decision reversed only after intense public pressure highlighted the disconnect between the family's wealth and their obligation to employees. Dolan's reputation for retribution extends to employees, with former MSG staffers describing a culture of fear where questioning decisions could lead to immediate termination, creating an environment where yes-men thrived and critical thinking withered. By mid-2020s, these controversies had transformed James Dolan from merely an unsuccessful sports owner into a figure frequently included on lists of most hated owners, alongside notorious figures like Dan Snyder, a remarkable deterioration for the heir to a once respected media empire. Just as his father had once revolutionized the entertainment industry through bold vision and technological innovation, James Dolan was now revolutionizing sports ownership, not through championship banners or fan-friendly policies, but by transforming America's most storied basketball arena into a fortress of grudges, fortified with facial recognition cameras and staffed by security personnel trained to recognize dissent faster than fast breaks. Beyond basketball blunders and entertainment assets, the Dolan legacy now extends into cutting-edge technology with the MSG Sphere, a venue so technologically advanced it makes the family's backward approach to basketball management even more perplexing. This $4 billion entertainment cathedral in Las Vegas represents James Dolan's most ambitious gamble yet, featuring 16,000 ultra-directional speakers, haptic seats that physically respond to performances, and scent emitters capable of releasing different aromas throughout the venue. The Sphere's exterior boasts 1.2 million LED lights, creating the world's largest programmable display, a technological marvel capable of projecting anything from lifelike scenes to abstract art visible across the Las Vegas Strip. U2 christened the venue in September 2023 with a residency that showcased the building's capabilities, proving that at least some Irish entities associated with the Dolans can actually deliver a consistent, high-quality performance. Financial analysts question the Sphere's economic viability, given its $35 million monthly operational losses and astronomical construction costs, suggesting James may have created the world's most expensive vanity project rather than a sustainable business. Beyond James, other Dolan family members maintain lower profiles while influencing the family empire, including his estranged wife, Kristen Dolan, who was recently appointed CEO of AMC Networks amid financial struggles at the entertainment company. The extended Dolan family includes figures like Larry J. Dolan, Charles's brother, who owns stakes in sports franchises, including the Cleveland Guardians baseball team, demonstrating sports ownership runs in the family, though competency at it apparently doesn't. Charles's nephew, Paul J. Dolan, manages vineyards using sustainable practices, while son Patrick Dolan runs Newsday as principal owner, showing diverse business interests across the family tree beyond Madison Square Garden's spotlight. Corporate restructuring in 2020 fractured the empire into two public companies, Madison Square Garden Sports Corp. And Madison Square Garden Entertainment Corp., providing greater transparency for investors while doing absolutely nothing to improve the Knicks. Recent Knicks management changes suggest even James might finally recognize his limitations, hiring Leon Rose as president of basketball operations in 2020 and apparently reducing his direct involvement in team decisions. This modest basketball renaissance has resulted in the Knicks making the playoffs in 3 of the last 4 seasons as of March 2025, proving the team performs better when its owner focuses on technologies to deliver scented air rather than basketball operations. James has expressed interest in selling the teams eventually, according to a 2023 New York Times interview, creating a glimmer of hope for long-suffering fans that feels like spotting an oasis after 25 years wandering the desert of basketball incompetence. What remains most remarkable about the Dolan dynasty is the dramatic contrast between generations. Father Charles creating HBO, a platform that produced cultural landmarks like The Sopranos and Game of Thrones, while son James produced primarily disappointment and dysfunction. The elder Dolan's passing in 2024 marked the end of an era in American telecommunications, a genuine innovator who transformed entertainment while maintaining a private dignity that his son never quite mastered. As the third generation of Dolans begins assuming leadership roles across the family's businesses, the question remains whether they'll inherit their grandfather's visionary business sense or their father's talent for antagonizing an entire city's sports fanbase. The Dolan legacy ultimately stands as a cautionary tale about succession, proving that creating a business empire requires genius, but preserving one requires something James Dolan apparently lacks: the wisdom to know what you don't know and the humility to step aside when necessary. Perhaps the final irony is that HBO, the platform Charles Dolan created but sold too soon, would later produce Succession, a drama about a dysfunctional media family fighting for control of a global empire, while the real-life Dolan Succession created a drama no television writer would dare invent, for fear audiences would find it too implausible to believe. And now, we'd like to see you in the comments below. Are you a native of New York or a general sports fan? And if so, what is your opinion of the Dolan family overall? We look forward to hearing from you, and thanks for joining us for another episode of Old Money Luxury. Cheers, until the next time.